Ramsey here for the Rajathon YouTube channel, and this is going to be an explanation on who the Heralds are, what the Heralds are for the Cosmere and the Stormlight Archive, and really giving you an in-depth look at who we have seen so far, what they're doing, how they popped up in the story, and I'll make a couple connections that aren't as clear as some of the, some are very clear, some are not, some are just hinted at. So I'll definitely, I'm not going to make any assumptions. I'm going to say this is what I think. I'm not going to tell you, hey, this is, this person or whatever. But I'll give you evidence that I've seen and I've researched and I've personally read. There's theories. I'm not going to go into that as much, just because I don't want to send you down a rabbit trail. This is before I read Rhythm of War or Dawn Shard, so I don't know if there's anything in there that I'm missing. So I will do an update video when both of those are read, probably before the end of the year. So the first time we meet the Heralds is the first prologue in the Way of Kings. You meet Kalak. He is walking towards the meeting point where he's going to meet the other Heralds. And as he gets there, he meets Jezrien, and there is a ring of swords in the ground. We don't know a whole lot about it at the time. They have a conversation about Taln being sent back, and we later learn more about what that means that he got sent back. But at this point, we only know that Kalak is there, Jezrien is there, Ishtar is mentioned, saying that he believes that the Oath Pact will be fulfilled if at least one went back, and Taln is the one that went back. So we meet two, and we have four known heralds at this time. We see the devastation of the battle of the Final Desolation, what they're calling the Final Desolation, and we realize that Jezrien is telling these people that we're going to lie to them. We're going to tell them that we won. Kind of lets you know that the Heralds aren't exactly who we think they're going to be. And so when we start to meet the characters and they talk about the Heralds being great, honorable men, gods among men, all that kind of stuff, we already kind of sort of know that they are not who we think they are. People believe they're religious figures, but really they're people with flaws and issues, right? So the other Heralds that we meet in Book 1, this is just Way of Kings for the time being, and then if you've read Way of Kings, I wouldn't watch this video if you haven't read all of Way of Kings, and then as we continue on in the video, I'll go through Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. So as we get to those points, I'll try to say, hey, if you haven't read it, go ahead and hop off, but I'd love to give you a full breakdown of all of them, so we'll just keep on going with that. In Book 1, we hear about 4 heralds in the prelude, meet 2, have 2 that are just mentioned. Others that we see, we have Nael, Shalash. Nael is speaking to Elhokar during the feast in the prologue, and he's confirmed in Jasnah's point of view in the Words of Radiance prologue, where we see his scar. And then Shalash is Baxel's mistress in the interlude, where she's defacing all the art that represents the heralds. Mostly it's her face. She's defacing anything that has her face on it. She slashed a painting depicting Ipan, the Lady of Dreams, which is another name for her, and many more that we don't get a description of. And you hear that as they're speaking back and forth in the interlude, where Baxel and the other guy are speaking back and forth, and she's in there with a padded hammer, breaking statues, cutting pictures, doing all kinds of. She's defacing all of her, all of art depicting her, right? And then we see Taln in the epilogue. Wit says to him, "Welcome, lost one." And then he says, "Go, run, raise the call, give the warning. I am Talenel Elin, stone sinew, herald of the Almighty. The desolation has come. O God, it has come, and I have failed." Now, one thing we don't know is who was with Nael in the prologue, either Kalak or Ishtar or someone else. We have been told there are not 5 heralds in the Way of Kings, so it's either 4 or 6, or some other number answer, but Brandon Sanderson confirmed that 5 is not the number of heralds you have in the Way of Kings. If we know that there's not 5, you have Jezrien, Kalak, Shalash, Nael, and Taln. But could one of those people actually be Ishtar, or could Taln not be who he says he is? Or is there another herald that we meet that we just don't understand as a herald at the time, and that will become clear in a later book? I looked it up on the 17th Shard website and the Coppermind website, and he has mentioned a couple times that 5 is not the number of heralds that we have in the Way of Kings, so we'll see there. We now have an idea of the heralds that we've seen in the Way of Kings, so let's go through and I'll tell you all of the heralds from what we've had mentioned in the official documentation, We haven't met all of them, but I'll give you as good of a breakdown as I can on the ones that we've met up to this point. The first herald is Jezrien. He was known as the Herald of Kings, and he's the patron of the Windrunners. We meet him there in the intro, in the beginning. And through the prologue, we meet him again, and I'll go into that in a little bit. Number 2, Nail. He is the Herald of Justice. He is confident in his purpose, and he is the patron of the Skybreakers. He retrieved his own honor blade and actually joined the Skybreakers. He's the only herald that we know that has done that. Number 3 is Chanarach. If I'm saying this wrong, I'm really sorry. It's Chanarach. Is said to be brave, obedient. She is the patron of the Dustbringers, and as far as we know, she is not at all in the first 3 books. Number 4 is Videl. She is said to be loving and healing. She is the patron of the Edge Dancers. She is also not yet present in the first 3 books. Palaya is the 5th one. She loves learning and giving. She is the patron of the Truth Watchers. She is possibly the older female Ardent in the Way of Kings, and Brandon has confirmed that the planet Naum was named after her. So that could be the 6th herald that we meet and take it from a 5 to a 6 in the Way of Kings. Not sure yet, but it has been thrown around that she is that older Ardent that we meet there in the Way of Kings. Number 6 is Shalash, or Ash, also Epan, like we talked about. If you remember, she destroyed the painting of herself in that interlude there. She is known as the Herald of Beauty, or the Lady of Dreams. She loves creativity and beauty, and she is the patron of the Lightweavers. 7, we have Battar, often attributed with wisdom and care, patron of the Else Callers. Taravangian claims that Dova is Battar, but Brandon has not confirmed that, and he says read and find out. But if she is Dova, she lives in Kharbranth. Number 8 is Kalak. He is attributed as being resolute, and he builds. He is the patron of the Will Shapers. He might be the one that's with Nail in the Way of Kings prologue, but he's definitely in the prelude where he meets Jezrien. Number 9, Talenel, or Taln. He is often called the Herald of War. He is dependable, resourceful. He's the patron of the Stone Wards, and he is the only herald to not abandon the Oath Pact. And by doing so, he was sent to Braze and tortured. And number 10, Ishtar. Number 10, Ishar. Ishar, Ishar. And number 10, Ishar. Also the Herald of Luck and the Binder of Gods. He formed the Knights Radiant, and he is the patron of the Bondsmiths. All right, that's all of the heralds. If you need to jump out now, totally understand. Check out the channel more, and then come back when you've read Words of Radiance and Oathbringer. We'll see you guys in a minute. This is going to go jump in straight into the Words of Radiance. All spoilers here. So here we go. All right, so in the prologue, Yasna overhears, "I am worried about Ash. She's getting worse. We weren't supposed to get worse. Am I getting worse? I think I feel worse." He is told to shut up by Nail. This is the 2 heralds that we think are in, because the Way of Kings prologue and the Words of Radiance prologue kind of mirror each other, but from different perspectives. We get Seth's perspective in book 1 and Yasna's perspective in book 2. So Nail tells him to shut up, but he keeps talking, saying, "I don't like this. What we're doing is wrong, and that creature holds my lord's own blade. We shouldn't have let him keep it." And then they stop talking when they see Yasna come around the corner. The man talking may either be Kalak or Ishtar, but my guess would be Kalak. And he was talking to Nail or Nalan. I think he was referencing Seth and Jezrien's honor blade, which gave him the powers of a Windrunner. Jezrien is the king of heralds, so my lord would make sense that if he was the king of the heralds, Kalak would sense him as my lord's honor blade, like that's my lord's honor blade. So, but that's an unproven theory. I don't know if that's Kalak. I don't know. We don't have confirmation on exactly what he was saying there, but it's pretty obvious he was talking about Shalash or Ash, and that she was getting worse, probably referencing her defacing her own artwork. She's the Herald of Beauty, so defacing her face leads to maybe some mental instability on her part. And then he was saying he feels worse, so the heralds are breaking down. All right, and then in Words of Radiance, many references to the heralds are in part 3, where all the chapter headers are quotes from the Words of Radiance. So in chapter 37, it describes Taln and his relationship with the Stone Wards. Chapter 42 states that Ishar, Elin, forced order on men and granted the surge, probably referencing the Knights Radiant and the formation of it. And then chapter 43 talks about Nalan joining the Skybreakers. So straight in to actual heralds, in Interlude 7, we get Taln's perspective, while Borden tells Dalinar about his journey, and the madman Taln remembers his torture, and he tries to tell them who he really is. He mentions, as he's talking, he's going through his litany, kind of like a memorized script that he tells. He says, Kalak will teach you to cast bronze. Videl can train your surgeons, and Jezrien will teach you leadership. I will train your soldiers. So much is lost. Ishtar keeps talking about a way to keep information from being lost, and you have discovered something unexpected. We will use that, the Surge Binders, to act as guardians. Knights, the days will be difficult, but the other heralds will join us soon. Then he rambles about being late and asks over how long has it really been. Later, Shallan visits Taln in the hospital, and this is in chapter 63. He pushes her out of her light weaving, and then he goes back to his mumbling. So he sees her doing light weaving, he pushes her out of it, and then he just goes back to doing what he's doing. So obviously he knew what she was doing, and he calls her one of Ishtar's knights. When we get to chapter 88, Aram takes Taln to a coach, and as they are walking, he catches a poison dart that is aimed for Aram, and then another one that's shot at him. He catches, I think, 2 or 3 poison darts that are shot at him by, what's her name, with the mask. And then Seth wakes up after dying and sees Nael and recognizes him. Then he makes Seth an apprentice Skybreaker. Nael gives Seth Nightblood. Nael heals Seth with a Fabrial. We don't really get a whole lot about it, but we know that he heals him. But he doesn't heal him exactly correct. And you learn in Edge Dancer and Oathbringer that his soul is slightly detached from his body, so he leaves like an after image. So Seth has like this slight weird after image that you can see on him, and it's kind of it would be really, really cool looking if you did it visually. In Interlude 9, when we get Nael and Lift's fight, Lift saves Gawx, and he sees Nael being cold and so by the book, and his law following. We really see his character where he's trying to kill the heralds to prevent desolations. He uses a creature to remove all the Stormlight from Lift, which we also realize that Risen has one of those as well. Lift also notices some defaced art of Ash, probably done by Ash. Chapter 30, Shallan draws a sketch of a woman defacing a statue with a hammer and doesn't know why. Most likely also Ash. Interlude 2, Nael kills Yim for a crime he committed 40 years ago when he's healing that boy's foot, and then after he heals the boy's foot, he's talking to his spren, and then Nael comes in and kills him. Yim was becoming a Truth Watcher. So that was everything I found in Words of Radiance. We'll go ahead and hop into Edge Dancer. Edge Dancer is mostly Nael and Lift, and Seth is in it, and we meet another Knights Radiant as she's starting to get her powers. And I wanted to mention, some people have asked me if Xyle is a Radiant, the Shardblade trainer, but he is actually a character in Warbreaker, so he is not a Radiant. He is not from Roshar at all. Lift calls Nael Darkness, so through the whole thing he is called Darkness, but he is Nael, the second Herald, the Herald of Justice. So she follows him to Azimir. Doesn't really know why. I think she's just kind of coming into the realization that she wants to help people. One of the Edge Dancer's themes is not to forget about people, to remember people who have been forgotten. And so she understands that Nael is going to this city to kill another Radiant, and she's going to try to go protect him. But she doesn't really realize it at the time, and then goes through that story. So after a long fight with Lift, where she finally uses Wendell as a Shardblade, actually not even a Shardblade, just a Shard pole, he realizes that he has not prevented the desolation from returning, and says he needs to go talk to Ishar. He goes, he flies off. That's basically the end of the story. There's a couple of things wrapping it up, but so now let's go into Oathbringer. Oathbringer has the most time with the Heralds. I think we just get to know a little bit more about their character, their flawed character. So as we jump into Oathbringer, I wanted to definitely say this is spoilers for everything I've read so far. So if I miss anything, please let me know in a comment down below if you've noticed anything Herald related, and I can add that to the update video that will come out before the end of the year. All right, so Heralds and Oathbringer. We have Jezrien, Nael, Ash, Taln, and Ishtar. Ishtar is currently insane and ruling Tukar as the God King. When Dalinar sends him a letter saying, you should join with me, we should unite. He sends something back saying, I am a king, I'm a herald, you should bow down to me and surrender your country to me. When Nael thinks Ishtar is the only one that has the ability to tell what's going on in the world, Nael's judgment obviously is flawed as well, because he is going to a definite crazy man to get his opinions and his advice. Ishtar founded the Oath Pact, and we learn that he was the one that convinced Nael to hunt down all the Surge Binders as they gained their powers to stop the desolation. So obviously his judgment is wrong. He actually has a picture featured in the end papers of Oathbringer. So this is Ishtar right here. And this is Ash, Shalash. And then we have Jezrien. And I will let you know who that is before the end of the video. Now, we learn that Ishtar is Tizim, the God King of Tukar, because the Stormfather tells Dalinar. So as we dive into Jezrien, it gets a little complicated. If you go to Tor.com, they have a great breakdown, and I'll link that down below. And I think some of that is context that Brandon Sanderson has given, that not all of that is written down in Stormlight Archive. Maybe it is some stuff I haven't seen, but I didn't want to add stuff directly from that Tor.com article because some of it I could not find in the books. So we chronologically meet Jezrien as a beggar who Dalinar drinks with to drown out the voices in his head. Seth Honorblade, that Bridge 4 uses, is Jezrien's Honorblade. He was the patron of the Windrunners, so when Seth has those abilities, that's because that was Jezrien's Honorblade, right? And then at the ending, we have Moash stabs Jezrien with an odd-looking knife. I'm assuming that knife is aluminum. Maybe we'll talk about what aluminum is to the Stormlight Archive. If you remember, Wit brought a bunch of aluminum so that they could soulcast grain in the wall. That was all aluminum. They had to line that room with aluminum. And if you've read Mistborn, aluminum's a big part of that series as well. Aluminum is the only metal that can't be cut by a shard blade. It passes through it. So aluminum's a big thing. I'm assuming this knife was either made of aluminum or gold and aluminum and a gold aluminum alloy. But that's a theory for another time. So, but this knife killed Jezrien for real, like completely killed him. And he didn't go back to Braze and go back to the Oath Pact. Because of that, all the heralds felt him die, like felt him truly be killed. And we learn at that point that Ash is Jezrien's daughter. Super, super crazy. There's a lot more to that. And then Moash changes his name and takes Jezrien's place as the herald and holds his honor blade. So the singers have him take Jezrien's place after he kills Jezrien with that knife, but they're afraid of Jezrien and they're afraid of the knife. We don't know enough about it yet to give definitive, but we do know that Jezrien is truly dead at the end of Oathbringer, and he cannot come back again. His name is changed. Moash's name is changed to Vyre, by the way, Vyre. So it's easy to jump from that point to Shalash's point of view and her part of this book. She has a huge part of this book. She's Jezrien's daughter. We meet her in Oathbringer for the first time when we get her interlude 8. She is the apprentice washwoman. And so the lady's telling her all about her chores and what she needs to do. She's following her into Mraize's tent. And then she just went because she wanted to destroy a picture of herself. So she's in Mraize's tent. She defaces her own artwork. Mraize walks in and is like, "Ha, I knew that would get you to come." And so she is about to like fight him. And he's like, "I know where Taln is." So she leaves with Mraize and they go off. That's the end of the interlude. He tells the lady, "Thanks, you do a great job. You need to get a new apprentice." In chapter 59, she's not directly mentioned, but Finn is taking Dalinar around to all the temples. And when he gets to her temple, all the faces are smashed of all her statues. And he's like, "Oh, wow, what happened here?" And she's like, that didn't happen now. That's been that way for a while. In chapter 117, we see Shalash searching for Taln and finding him in a tent. After walking in the tent, she sees a bowl. She scratches her face off of that bowl. It has all 10 heralds on it. And then she's walking with Taln and Taln asks her, how long has it been? She tells him 4,000 years he's been tortured. And she is super tore up about it. In chapter 118, Taln is mumbling while Ash is just mournful and acting really, really sorrowful. Also in 119, she apologizes and he brushes her apology away and says, you gave them time to rebuild. You gave them time to recover. He is so thankful. He is honored that they let him be the sacrifice and that it let the humans have time to rebuild and reform everything they were, because the desolations were just ruining everything. Technology was going away. People were not. It was just so hard. And by him staying and being tortured for 4,000 years, yeah, it broke his mind, but it gave them time to rebuild. So then he says, come on, we need to go find him, talking about Dalinar. But Shalash, she wants him to hate her. She wants him to hate her for what they've done to him, and he just won't do it. And then right there near the end at chapter 121, Ash is trying to pull away and go and flee to Ishar with Taln, and she feels something rip inside of her as Yasna recognizes her face. She's heading towards the Oath Gate, and when her father dies, she feels something rip inside of her, and I'm assuming that Yasna collects her and takes her somewhere, probably back to Urithiru or something like that. So I've gone over mostly everything that Talon has done, because with his madness, he's basically been in a hospital, and then Ash comes and finds him. So we'll jump right into Nail. Nail is really, really interesting in this book. He is really struggling from what you see in Edge Dancer and him flying off to go see Ishar. And then when he starts talking with Seth, and Seth becoming further into the Skybreakers, you have him actually lay out why he does the things he does and how he doesn't trust himself. He doesn't trust his own judgment. So he uses an outward morality to force inner compliance of himself. Like he holds himself to a structure of something outside of himself because he does not trust himself. We also find out from the Ghost Bloods that Helleran was an apprentice Skybreaker. He had not gotten a spring yet, but that's where he got his Shardblade and his armor. And it's theorized that the reason he went after Amaram was to impress Nail and to earn the right to gain a spren. And he really appreciates Seth's ability to follow the rules. He talks about that a lot. And then they go on to Thalen City. They all fly through Thalen City. He has like his catches of gems that they can keep gaining Stormlight and flying to the Battle of Thalen City. They plan to just watch because Nail believes that because the singers are the original inhabitants of Roshar, that he should serve them. So so from that point on, he tells Seth, I'm going to serve the singers, and you can make your own decision. Then, as we know, Seth pledges himself to follow Dalinar, and Nail allows it. He says that's okay. I'm okay with that. So a couple of things in Way of Kings Prime that don't actually cross over here. The Heralds were supposed to take over a body like the Fused do, but he changed that when he actually wrote the books instead of the way it was in Way of Kings Prime. And what is called the Tranquilon Halls is the planet humans originally came from, which is Ashen. And they destroyed that somehow. We don't know yet. And then Damnation is Braze, like I was talking about, where Odian was trapped. He's not trapped there anymore, but he was trapped on Braze. And after the Everstorm, he was released. He was let free. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. If you have any questions, link for the Discourse down below. I'll answer any questions you have there, or in a comment in this video. You let me know. Please subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did I get anything wrong? Did I get, am I just crazy? Should I have even taken this on? But I wanted to know more about the Heralds, and I'm going to jump in and learn more about them when I can. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.